Hi everyone. So in this particular video, we'll be creating our resources. Okay, so first of all, we should know what is a resource. Resource is anyone or anything, I would say, that helps us in completing our activity and thereafter completing our project. Like resources can be broadly categorized into your labor, your staff, then your equipments and plants and machineries and your materials. Okay, so these are some broad categories of resources, but in your Microsoft project these resources are classified as your work resource, then your cost resource, and then your material resource. So we will slowly and steadily learn about these three kind of resources, but first of all I'll show you the presentation, which is consisting of all the resources with respective activities that we will be adding in our Microsoft project. So for site clearance, we require two masons, one PM is nothing but your project manager, then one CM is your maybe construction manager or your planning manager, then even is a class of engineer. Even is not a specific person, even is a class of engineer. Okay, similarly, say for second activity, excavation in foundation, you require one mason, then your PM, then your CM, then your even. This even is not the same as the other even. These two evens will be different persons, but their class will be same. But PM and CM will be common to all the activities. Okay, so equipment required is excavator, but no material is required for excavation. For foundations, two masons, one helper, then your one PM, one CM, one even is required. No equipment is required. Then your PCC, which is nothing but your plain cement concrete is required. So these are some of the resources that we have assigned for our activities. These are not the exhaustive list of resources, but we have just created some handful of resources for making you understand the concept of resources. That's it. There can be multitude of resources associated with every certain activity, but we have not created those multitude list of resources. If you want, you can add as many resources as you want and as required, but we will be limiting our study and execution to these resources only. Okay, so we will go to the Microsoft project window, and to add the resources you have to first of all open your resource sheet. How can you open the resource sheet? Either in the task menu you can go to this Gantt chart button and then you can click on this resource sheet. Other ways, in the view tab you can see that resource sheet is available. So either option you can use to open the resource sheet. So I'll use this option. So now you see one resource sheet is available to you, where in your resource name, resource type, material, initials, group, max, all these columns are already there. But if you want to add a certain column, you can add it using this. You can type whatever you want and it will come in this appearances, and then you can create that particular column if you require. Okay, so in this particular video, first of all I just recommend you to take a snapshot of this particular slide for the seamless execution in our Microsoft project. So first of all, we'll be creating our labor resources as well as our staff resources. So basically this is nothing but our human resources, or I would say your labor or manpower resources. Okay, so these are the labor and your staff resources that we will be creating. First of all, I'll be showing you by creating maybe 5 to 6 resources, then you can create the other resources by yourself. Okay, so first of all, we will take the planning manager or the project manager. We will write project manager. So whatever is the resource name, you will type the resource name here. If you want to type the name of the project manager here, you can directly type his or her name also. Then type of resource is already by default, it will take as work. See, these are the three types of resources. In this particular video, we'll be limiting the creation of resources to work resources only. Otherwise, the video will become quite lengthier, which I don't want. So work resources are all the resources which work on an hourly or a daily or a weekly or a monthly or an yearly basis. Like they will be charging a certain amount based on a certain unit of duration. Okay, like per hour, per day, per week, and so on. Material resources are nothing but the resources which will get used during the work, like your concrete or maybe your tiles and so on. Cost resources are some I would say some constant resources which will not at all be charged on an hourly basis or a unit duration basis, but instead they are some kind of resources which are, I would say, one time kind of resources, or which do not have a distributed cost. Okay, we'll be learning it maybe in the next video. So right now you just understand what is a work resource. A project manager will come under a work resource. Similarly, a mason, a plumber, a carpenter also will be categorized under the same category of resource, which is your work resource. This material column is not at all used for the work resource. When we will be studying the material resources, then we will be showing the usage of this particular column. Now, what is initials? See, initials are nothing but some kind of, I would say, acronyms that you can give to your resource. Like I would say for project manager, I'll give it as PM, or you can choose PR also, or you can simply keep it as P also. These initials can be used in the Gantt chart. With every particular resource, you can show this particular initial in the Gantt chart bar to represent that this particular activity has these resources assigned with them. See, you can also show the resource name also there directly, but the resources name are quite lengthier. So instead of showing these names, we show the initials there to make it a bit not messy, I would say. Okay, then group. See, grouping is nothing but if you want to group certain resources, like suppose I would say if you have some subcontractor resources and some internal resources, you want to group that this is an internal resource, then you can make it an internal resource. You can group it under the internal category. Similarly, suppose if you have some particular labor which is coming from subcontractor, then you can write the group as subcontractor, and so on. Okay, so right now I'll delete this complete row. So this is how the grouping is there. When you will click on this particular button, you can filter out these resources based on your grouping category. So grouping is nothing but just to filter out, to see something in a very systematic and filtered way. You can group certain resources based on certain criteria. What is this max? You see, this is some percentage allocated to this project manager. Percentage 100% means that this project manager will be available for 100% of his time. Suppose if I make this percentage as 200%, then that means that instead of working 10 hours per day, this project manager will be available 20 hours per day also in the system. If that can also mean 200%, if I make this particular percentage as 200%, then that would also mean that we have two project managers at site. So you can choose the maximum percentage based on the multitasking, based on the overtime, and based on the number of resources available with you. We have only one project manager, and that project manager will be working only 10 hours per day, no overtime, and also that means we will keep it as 100% only. Next is standard rate. See, you can decide this standard rate on an hourly basis also, on a daily basis also, per day, on a monthly basis also, and you can change this currency also. See, if you want to change the currency, no, you need to go to file. There's something called as options here. If you go to the options and you go to this display, then you see there are certain currencies available with you here. USD, and then your TTD, TRY, several currencies of have several countries are available to you. So let us say I'm from India, I'll choose the currency as INR. Okay, I'll keep the currency as INR. So this is INR currency. When you will change the currency, it will change the symbol also. It will show how it will look like. If you want to change the placement, like if you want to change where the symbol will come, where the text will come, where the number will come, you can change that. You can change the number of decimal digits also. So we will keep this to this session only, and we'll click on OK. So now the currency has been changed. Also, if you want to see whether per hour, per day, how it looks like, so you can go to options, and then here you can go to, I think it will come in advanced. So here you see by default it will come in per hour. Okay, overtime rate also, standard rate also. If you want to make it to per day or per week, then you can change that. How per hour will look? Hour will be a short form with have a short form of HR. Similarly, day will have a short form of DAY. Year will be having a short form of YR. You can change these formatting also. You can choose W for it. You can choose week full for it. So whatever you want, you can do. I'll click on cancel right now. Okay, so you need to choose a standard rate. Standard rate means based on the calendar timings rate. If the calendar has a 10 hours of working, then during those 10 hours, if a person is working, then what will be the rate for that person is called as a standard rate. So let us say we will keep a let us say hourly rate, or maybe per day rate also you can keep, but here we will be keeping hourly rate. So let us say we keep it as 400 rupees per hour. See, if you don't even put per hour, it will automatically take per hour. But if you will put per hour, then it will take that again. Overtime rate, suppose if the project manager is doing overtime, then in that particular time, what will be he be charging? Like suppose if he charges 500 per hour, 600 per hour based on the overtime rate, beyond 10 hours if he's working, you can choose the overtime rate also, but we are considering that our project doesn't have much overtime. So right now we are keeping the cost as 0 per hour for overtime. Now, what is cost per use? See, cost per use is nothing but it is usually used for your equipments and all, where some installation or some setup cost is required, which will be a kind of one-time cost or one usage cost. If you will be using a certain equipment for one time, you will have to invest that particular amount based on its usage. So that is a cost per use. So whenever you will use that resource, it will incur that particular cost to that particular activity. Now, what is accrue? See, there are three types of accrue: start, prorated, and end. When you will choose on prorated, then the cost of this particular resource will be divided on the basis of its usage throughout the project. But if you will choose start, no, then for start kind of accrue, your cost will be coming only in the starting. This is usually for some materials and all. Let's say you are purchasing some material and you are paying the cost of the material in the starting itself, and during the complete life cycle of that usage of material, the cost will not accrue, but it will accrue in the start itself. Similarly, and if you have some cost coming towards the end of the resource, then it is an end kind of accrue, but we will keep it as prorated, and I would suggest to keep most of the uh, type of accrue as prorated. You can see the usage of this particular thing in the resource usage sheet. When I will open the resource usage sheet, then I will show you how the prorated, how the start, and how the end thing comes into picture. Then you can also change the base calendar, how the project manager is working, whether he's working based on the project requirements, project calendar only, or he has a certain different kind of calendar. Suppose project manager is a very senior person and he says that I won't be coming on Saturday, then you can change the calendar also and change the work timing also. Right now you see that the calendar is a base calendar, but if you want to change his base calendar, you can simply choose a certain other calendar, like suppose standard calendar you can go for, or you can go for 24 hours calendar, night shift calendar, whatever calendar you want, you can choose this particular calendar. Okay. And if you want to change the working time, see, right now your base calendar is IT building calendar. That means he'll be working Monday to Saturday, and from 8 a.m. in the morning till 7 p.m. in the evening. But if you want to change this particular time of the person, then what you can do is you can simply double click here, and you will see there is an option called as change working time. So you can change his working time also. Like suppose if you want some exceptions to the IT building calendar, like for example, suppose if I say that he will not be working on Friday, or let us say he will he'll be working only for 7 hours on Friday. You can add these exceptions here. You can simply modify the work week here also. You can go to the details. You can change his timings on Monday if you want to change. Right now you can see very light it is visible, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., then 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you want to change his timings of Wednesday or Friday, you can do it from here. Okay, this all we have studied already in the creation of calendar. So you can repeat the same exercise for the resources also if you want. You click on cancel. See, you can also add an email to this particular resource. If you want that this resource is having a certain email related to your company, you can give the email also of this person if you want. See, booking type is committed and proposed. For example, if your project is expected to have certain phases, like right now first phase is running, but suppose if you feel like second phase will also come, and if this resource is a proposed resource, that we have this resource into our IE site, but right now this resource is not being used, but he might be used in the future, so you can make that resource as a proposed resource. But right now this project manager is a committed resource, because we know that we will be using our project manager in this project very properly, so he is a committed resource for us. Okay. Then you can also change the availability of this resource. Suppose for example, right now he is 100% available for 10 hours, but suppose if due to a certain reason from a certain date he's going on a leave, then he'll be 0% available during that particular time. Or suppose he's working only 50% of the time for certain duration because of some emergency or something, you can change the availability. You can choose the dates and all from here, and you can change the units of time from here. Okay. So this is how you can modify the things related to your resource. So this is not an important thing. Just click on, and then we can simply click on OK, but we have not made any changes, so we can simply click on cancel also. Okay. Then we can add our next resource also. So apart from project manager, we have our let's say construction manager. I would write. Okay, he is also a work type of resource. Then your initial we can write as CM. Okay, then he is also internal. We can group him into internal category. Maximum is 100. Let us say he will be charging 350. Overtime is 0. He is also prorated. Okay, similar way you can add all the staffs. Like you can add engineer 1. Okay, he's also work category. We'll write the initials as even. He's also internal. Okay, then this percentage is same standard rate. Let us say for him it is 200 per hour. Okay, overtime rate is 0, everything else is same. Now let us say for engineer 2 we have 6 engineers, no, total 6 classes of engineer. So we will write it as E2. And suppose this is non-internal, like this is not our internal resource. We have or let us say we have kept some engineers on contract basis, so he's a contract type of employee. Okay, so let us say for contract employees usually the salary is a bit improved as compared to the internal staff. So let us say his salary is 250 rupees per hour. Or suppose if you want to say that he's charging on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, then you can write that his salary is, let us say, 70,000 per month. Okay, so it will take 70,000 per month if you will just adjust the width, but we will not keep it as 70,000 per month. I just showed it for the illustrative purpose. We will keep it as 250 rupees per hour. Okay, so this is how we can add our staff resources. Now you can simply go for adding engineer 3, engineer 4, engineer 5 and engineer 6. So that's all for the staff resource. But if you want to add the labor resource, you can do it simply, like for example masons. He's also work resource. We'll keep masons as M only. Then let us say he's coming from vendor 1, V1. Okay, and see, if you go to this presentation, then you will see that for certain activities 2 masons are also required at a certain point of time. So we might keep this percentage even more. Like let's say we have 6 masons, so we will keep this percentage as 6. Maximum percentage will be 6. Minimum can be 1, 2, 3, whatever, depending on the activity. But suppose some activities are overlapping. For example, suppose let us say this activity and this particular activity are overlapping, then in that particular case we'll be requiring 4 masons. So we will keep the maximum number as 6. We can keep it as 10 also, but this is the maximum number. Actual will be 4, 5, whatever it is, but for being on the safer side, we will keep the maximum percentage as 6. Okay, and you can mention the charges also per hour. So let us say he's charging 100 rupees per hour. Okay, so similarly we can also add our helper. He's the helper and we'll say H is his, and then he's coming from vendor V1 again. And then let us say 300 percentage, 3 helpers are required, and he'll be charging, let us say, 50 rupees per hour. And over, you can keep overtime for labor also if you want. Usually in some companies they don't pay for staff, so that is why we are keeping overtime for staff as 0. Otherwise also we are thinking that our project will not run for overtime. Later on if some changes come, like if due to the deadlines or due to some commitments or due to some constraints, you can also keep some overtime charges that point of time. Okay, similarly you can also add your block work mason. Okay, BWM we will keep. He's coming from, let's say, vendor V2, we'll keep it as 200%. Then for him also we'll keep 100 rupees per hour and so on. So this is how we add the work type of resources. So that's all for the video. In the next video we'll be learning about material resources, then furthermore we'll be learning about cost resources, and then we'll be learning about assigning these resources to our activities, which will be our main focus, I would say. Okay, one more thing which I forgot to tell you is that you can also add notes related to your resources. For example, for project manager, if you want to add, then you can go to this notes, and here you can mention about the project manager, like he is having 28 years of rich experience in commercial projects. Then you can also write he is an MBA grad from IIM or something like that. XYZ. So you can mention some notes also about your resources and you can click on OK. So this way, this particular symbol will come here, which shows that we have added certain note about our resources. If you want to mention something specific about your resources, you can add that in the note section. You can also change your font and style also. Okay. Similarly, cost also you can mention here. You can change the cost from here also if you want, but we will keep it as it is. So that's all for the video. Thank you, everyone.